Live in the room. Got this thing started. So my disclaimer, TikTok, I can see your comments. I am going to go through my normal routine. We'll cover the SPY, we'll cover the Dixie, cover the VIX, and then if there's any tech stocks you guys want me to cover, please let me know. I have no problem covering the tech stocks. We don't trade the tech stocks as much unless there's an amazing opportunity that presents itself. I follow the tech stocks because we trade the SPY, so which is obviously heavily influenced by the tech stocks. So I'm not going to cover tech stocks unless somebody asks. So let's jump into the SPY. I always like to start with how we traded Friday, just because that gives people the time to come in and check it out. So let's look at the 2-minute. That's what I love to trade, as y'all know. I'm going to go to regular hours. Let's find Friday. Thursday. Here's Friday. Somewhere in here. Right there. There's the gap. So you can see we had nothing but an uptick on Friday. This is an interesting thing, guys, I wanted to talk about because we do some insights in the room, and I wanted to cover it, some of the past insights. So this is some of the insights we put out. And this is what I keep talking about. Some of the data that was here was showing the market was overly bearish, right? Like pretty high on some of these put to call ratios. And so sometimes, you can jump with the market and ride the wave, but sometimes it creates a little bit of a squeeze, right? We had our upper pivot resistance levels. It shattered through, first, second, and then it rejected off of the third, and back down we came. So we knew that we had some max pain points up at the upper range between 426 and 427. And so, the point of that is, like we saw play out, Friday is we had a squeeze, right? It broke some key levels. It pushed up, jumped up. If you think of the max pain is somewhere in here, obviously they don't want to hang out here. So they just kind of swung it, right? They trapped all their puts in here, then they swung it up. Now they trapped all their puts in here. Unless aside some crazy news, I would not be surprised if we don't pull back to around 425.60, something like that, and then pump back up to 428, and just kind of range there, because that would, think about that, that's going to squeeze these the delta off of the puts and the calls, right, that got trapped. So I don't think without any kind of news or clear direction that the market's going to want to let either one of these out today. So, obviously, if you're trading options, right, you got additional contracts you could throw in and just play the range. So if you're stuck in something. So, but it didn't, the push north here didn't surprise me. I mean, you got to look back here. You have, support. I mean, up we go. The other key factor, guys, I want to point out before I jump into the kind of what we were looking at is this is what is really driving people. There's two things. One, if you look at the weekly here, this was the big news headline, right? So we had 4 bearish candle weeks, right? And then on the fifth one, this is our first potential bullish, where people want to ride that bounce. But something to point out is, right, as on the weekly here, we have a lot of things that we need to look at. One, you have the 200 EMA is way down here, like 387, right? If you look at our trend line here, you got your low peaks. This is why we got our bounce also. You have your lows, and then it tried to break it, couldn't break it, causing it bullish. So once it tried to break it on 420, and then it pumped back up and reclaimed that 423.90, 424, that's where, if you notice, we got our steam, right? Now, we did get a rejection point around that 430 range, which actually hit our, so this is our indicator from, I think this is the zone tracker. It hit the first one here, hit it, and now we're in a rejection. So the key area for me to watch is obviously going to be this orange line. Typically, if you can see, when it's blue, we've stayed pretty bullish. Even in this drop, it didn't get fooled, right? It stayed blue. But now we're orange, which is more down, right? So on the weekly, we are still red on this. So remember, on the higher time frames, you can have a larger movement for sure. So I have marked our rejection point. It's a little bit off here on the weekly, but if you go into the extended hours, for the lower time frames, so let's go into the 1 hour. You can see it's pretty on point right here. So this is going to be our upper pivot. I'm going to line it up again and then lock it so that way it don't move on me. So this is my upper pivot I want to watch here. So let's talk about the 1 hour here. I did want to go more into what we traded Friday. We did take some puts on the way up, which was kind of funny. We got out of a nice little quick put on the live trader settings, and then we also took some calls, and we got wicked out just before the push up, which kind of sucks, but it happens. But the divergence, all that played out. To me, just looking at this 1 hour overall, I talked about this, I think, either Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. But we're starting to look potentially very inverse head and shoulder-ish on the 1 hour. So a pullback down into this 425 or possibly 422, 423 is very possible. It is, right? To create this second shoulder. Now remember, this shoulder does not have to go as deep as this shoulder did, but you do have a lower high from here that rejected, so it very well could, right? It very well could. But we do have this trend line. So this lower trend line was the one that I was talking about that comes up from that weekly that we pulled. I did cut this off. The reason why I cut this off, if you think about this, we kind of had this little double bottom right here. We ended up having a bullish candle. We had our bullish divergence to support it, pumped up, and that's where our volume came from. In addition, something I wanted to point out is, let me go to the extended hours, which actually might adjust my line. That's why I was off. I always, if you guys ever get that, I still do it, even though I know it drives me bananas. But I like to draw my lines on my extended hours, not on my regular hours, because I want to capture the full movement. And so every now and then I'll see my line slightly off and I'm like, dang, did I move that? And sometimes it's just because I had it on my extended and I'm actually looking at regular. So I'm going to move that back and then lock that. So, and just try to remember that. But if that's ever happening to you guys, which it probably is, that is why. So you can see up here, we're going to likely hit up here. I believe so, but this key trend line is going to be huge. If we break below this trend line, which is into that 420 to 424 range again, and we begin to hold as resistance, we want to watch for the squeeze, because if we do get that squeeze from this 21 coming down like this, and it's enough to break it, that falls pretty far, right? It's between 415, 417, somewhere in there that we had. But this is kind of the neckline that I'm going to watch right here for our inverse head and shoulder call possible. That's what I'm going to look for, right? So if I do see this breakdown and this shoulder start to form, I'm going to probably ride some calls up here. If I start to see that bullish divergence and some signs showing that we're going back up, right, we'll ride that sucker back up into that upper range up here. So this is this neckline somewhere between 430, 430.50, something like that. If we do break this neckline, I think that is what will propel us into here. The interesting thing is, if you think about this, right? So if, let's say by the time it goes like this, right, comes through, and now we have Wednesday, it breaks this, we have Thursday, pumps up, right, comes back down, hits a retest, pumps back up, like this, right? Look at where this trend line would hit, literally right where this resistance is. So if this does play out, this could be an amazing call setup for us to do, but be very careful as you get up to here, because this could hard reject, just like it did here, just like it did here. This is a 453 down to 442. That's $11. So this could be just an absolute nasty rejection if we do get up there. However, if we do flip this by chance, right? So don't jump the gun on it, because if we do flip this and it starts to hold that support, now we've broken a trend line that is based off of our all-time high. And that would be pretty ridiculously bullish, right? Which would push us pretty high up into that range. So that's kind of what I'm watching. The key level to me, guys, today, like literally the most important thing to watch. This is what this should tell you everything on your strategy. We are below the 200, so we broke it, we could not hold it. Normally, if you're continuing to be bullish, it needs to hold this 21. So far, it's tried to hold it, and it continues to reject off it. This is our breakdown, this is our rejection. So if we get a candle close, in the next 4 minutes, it happens to drop down below this wick here, that's going to be seen as bearish, and we'll continue to the downside. What it needs to do is to hold this doji, preferably get a little bit of a push north, maybe another 10-15 cents. It'll flip this doji green. Then we get a bullish candle here. We close above 427.38 in that following hour, and you can almost ride that call up to 429. So that's kind of the strategy, the path that we'll be watching today. But it's a critical zone, because if you zoom out, right, this is our 200. We've stayed below it since 447, right? And so this is literally the first time we've actually tested it. It tried to hold it, couldn't, and it collapsed. Watch for the golden cross as well. If we do get enough volume north today that it does push back up here, it's going to begin to try to golden cross. So if you start to see support and you see this neckline break real early, remember this shoulder could be as small as this, right? Then that'll give you your sign that you probably want to be really careful on your puts. So, but that's kind of the plan, with the SPY guys. The Harmonic Tracker Pro on the 1 minute. It literally, this indicator kills it, right? And you got short, you got the long, you got the short, and we are currently in the long. Now, remember, just like here, right? You can be in a long and still, this retraced from 427 all the way to 424, $3, right? And so you got from here to here's, about $4 that it's retraced so far. So depending what this does, it could come down here. This long could still stay in effect without a short popping, and it still could be a good play. But you don't want to enter just on this, right? You want to enter on when you start to see this pullback on a retest. So if you do see that retest down here and we start to hold support here, or we double bottom here, and there's no flip to a short call, could be a pretty nice... yeah, banks are closed and the bond market's closed too. So it's definitely going to be lower volume. But those who trade, some people they see scalping as if the volume's low like that, depending who's in the market trying to get their positions, it could move the market actually in some decent bursts too. Because if people are overly bullish, or let's say people Monday they're like, dang, I'm in profit, I'm gonna let this trail stop out today, and they start to close their trades, right? We could see a pretty nasty move down, because as they begin to close them, right, there's not enough volume to pressure it back up, and vice versa. So sometimes even though it's low volume, you could still capture some nice movement on that. So but I agree with you, without some crazy news, my original thing, what I said is that, the market has trapped, the puts here, trapped the calls here, and we may just continue to range for a little bit, right, between this neckline or support between 425.40 or so and 427.19. We may just range that. We may start market open and pull down, hit this, hold that support, and then reverse, right? It's very, very, very possible. So the big days this week are Wednesday and Thursday. We'll continue to update people as those days progress, but those are going to be the big days to watch out for, definitely. So the Dixie is also one that's causing the push north, right? Obviously, because we talked about this, I think it was last week, like early in the week, but when we were up in this range, there was just so much resistance, guys, 107.2 area, and you just kind of had your kind of triple peak here, with this wick. Call it head and shoulder, whatever you want, but they do the same thing. We had our initial reclaim here, tried to hold, couldn't do it. We had our news that pushed us up and then tanked it, and so far it's just holding support here. We did flip back above the 200 though, guys. So, or is that the 200? Let me double check. Yeah, the zone tracker 200. Yep. Yeah, I don't have the Bollinger one on here. So we did flip back above the 200, but just such a thick resistance zone, right? So we could see a potential bounce off the 200 before we reject off here, which would coincide with kind of what we're talking about right on this side too. So definitely some viable TA with that. So the VIX, I marked the VIX in like this. This is the 1 hour trend that I'm taking there. And then if you go to, just go to like the daily is easier to see. This is our upper band right here. I just kind of extended that out. So far it's held support pretty well here. We did break above, creating a higher high here. We are rejecting from there. So this trend line right here, this one that's real close to the price, if it does break like this and holds, and I mean it's going to push pretty hard north, which would drop the markets pretty far south. So the VIX is going to be a key thing to watch today too. So because that's going to, depending if we break those levels from the lower standpoint, it just needs to flip below here. Now, if you look, we're actually on the daily above the 200 and beginning to cross on the 20. So if we get that golden cross over the next few days or week, I mean, that could be quite interesting. We are still holding above the 200 even with this pullback that we had. And currently now it's actually above the 21 and we're blue. So it's going to be a wild ride. But you know, you guys are right. Let's see how the market reacts. You can see we're getting a little bit of a push north. This is what we talked about on the 1 hour that we want to watch for, right? So we had our breakdown down here, and now we're trying to get this push north. So this candle is going to be huge because if we can break above this wick 24, 27, 36 or so, then now that puts us back above the 21, and we're going to see a push up and probably a possible squeeze throughout the day. However, if it cannot in the next hour by 10 a.m., if the market opens and it rejects hard, and we close back below the 426.24, then we're going to go down. So waiting 15-20 minutes when market opens could be a pretty good trading plan today. So I would just be patient. So Bitcoin, I know everybody wants the bull market to be back. Everybody's overly bullish on Bitcoin, and it keeps rejecting. So, you know, you just got to trade what you see, guys. So we did create a higher high here. We did not quite hit that 28.8 that I'm anticipating. This was prior support. It has to flip this for me to be overly bullish on Bitcoin. It has to flip it back to support. As long as it continues to hold as possible resistance, it's going to be a slow ride up. So I would just extend this line like this. This is going to be your squeeze between the 28.866 and the 27.334, you know, depending where we hit it, right? Obviously. I will say on the 1 hour, we are sitting about 23 on the RSI, so it's pretty oversold. So let's take a look at gap fill. Gap fill doesn't really show I mean, it's way out of the range, so might get a little bit of a bounce. I mean, Harmonics called the short, called the long, called the short. We call the long here, which not bad actually. I mean, if you look where the long was 27.980 and we hit up to 28.288. I mean, you can still make some money in that, but we did flip short on that 1 hour. Good deal. You guys in the room, you guys know the settings. We got these all put out, key levels. I got my settings set up. If you guys want to live trade with us, I'll be modifying my settings real time. Victor snuck into Tesla. I was gonna end it there soon, but let's take a look at Tesla. Guys, I'm willing to do another 10-15 minutes, 10 minutes. So if you guys have tech stocks you want me to look at, let me know. Otherwise, I will bounce out. I haven't looked at Tesla in a little while, so you can see my lines are still a little bit everywhere. Let's see what we got here. So I do know Tesla, for sure we had called this inverse head and shoulder. And so that played out pretty well from the shoulder there. We do have some bearish divergence going on here, though. You see that right here? You got equal peaks, but yeah, you got lower peaks on the RSI. So a little bit of bearish sentiment starting to show. We did break this line that I had here, so I'm just going to clear that one. This is our support line. Let's just extend that because that's becoming very viable. I'm going to clear some of these middle lines too. Let's pull these off. Here's what I would watch for Tesla. I would watch this prior high right here. I'm going to make this like, I don't know, yellow or teal or something. Let's make it yellow. Let's delete this one. Okay. So this is how I would box in Tesla if you're going to trade it. You have your prior high and you have your lower trend line. I would say this teal one right here, I would push it to there. For me, I'm still going to stay put on Tesla if it stays below this teal line. This would be roughly my key area, so which is 263.59. If we stay below this, I'm going to just wait for some push up north and then ride the put back down to the 244 or this trend line. However, if we flip the 263.73 and we start to hold this as support, now we've created higher high and we have support, right? Then you can ride that sucker pretty much all the way back to 278. So gap fill doesn't really have much on there. Let's look at the 5 minute. No, not on the 5 either. Harmonic is calculating. It's got a lot of data. So Harmonic actually called you got a short call there, but you got the long off of support. You got the short, you called the long, and it's actually currently in a short. So hope that helps. But yeah, SPY's pushing. You know, this is a pre-market push, so it's trying to climb. Yeah, we'll see how today goes, guys. Just keep in mind, you know, I'm gonna leave you guys with this, and then I'll head out to get ready for the room. If you are trading today, Mondays are always fake outs. They always love to fake out. So most of the time, the first direction's not the right one unless news supports it to be so. So, but again, this 21 and this 200 are going to be key. So if we do break above this 21 and we hold it and we begin to trend north, somewhere around this 429 or so is going to be where you're going to want to look for that put. If we can flip this again, you know, we just want to see if it holds support. If it holds support, man, it especially if we break this trend line, it's going to go up in a pretty big way, which we'll cover that each day. So, but if we lose this 21 in the next few hours and we create another lower low here, it's going to be seen as pretty bearish. So we'll keep you guys updated in the room for those that are trading with us.